So I last posted about this Honda 1963 CA-95, this little 150cc motorcycle. I last posted that while I was putting the engine together, I discovered the head was bad. So I went ahead and tore this head down. I took the valves out. I took the rocker arms out, and I pulled the camshaft out. I wanted to see exactly what was going on so I understood it and how I could correct it. Now, the cam, well, first thing to understand is that this is an aluminum casting. It's one piece. And there are no hard surfaces in here except for the valve guides, which are pressed in, and the valve seats. Everything else is aluminum, so this cam rides on aluminum here and here at these two locations where my thumbs are. Now, I can look at this. This cam is, or the head is bored for the cam to slide through, and when I slide this side in where it fits, it's very nice. There's no play, no wiggle, no nothing. In fact, it's a little tight. And that's where this side rides. This big side over here rides in this other side. And the first thing I'm going to show you is down there where my fingers are. If I take this pick and I slide it down, there's a lip. That lip is easily 1 millimeter thick, and that's where the cam has ground into this aluminum surface. And now, without all the valves and rocker arms in there, it's really easy to just drop the cam in, and it's in there, and you can hear and see it wiggling around. That's too loose. I mean, that's bad. So I wanted to understand what happened and how it works and why. So I started looking at this and go, how does the oil get up into this head and lubricate all of this? Well, and I'm looking at this cam, and there's all these little holes in here. There's a name for those holes. I'm not a machinist. I don't know what they are. There's these holes. And the interior of the cam is hollow. You can get in there. And so those holes are distributing the oil. How is it getting there? We have to look at the head to understand that. So let me just spin it around so you can see it. I mean, not the head. We have to look at the cylinder so we can understand it. So the cylinder slides over the top of these head bolts. This back one right here has a rubber seal on it. This is a vent that goes up to the top of the engine. It's clearly a vent. It probably relieves, you know, there's a hose that comes off of it, so it's just relieving pressure in the crankcase, I guess. These two in the front right here, and this one, they've got sleeves on them that act like leader pins to push. When you push this together, it helps line everything up. These two center ones, they have shoulders on them, so they fill the hole in the cylinder very well. But this one right here has nothing, and it'll wiggle around, and there's space around it. That hole that the head bolt comes through, which is this one right here, that hole corresponds with, let's get it right, this hole in the head. And when I come down to this surface where the small side, this side of the camshaft, this side of the camshaft, where it rides here, if I look in there, there's a hole, and I can stick this wire in, and I can see that that hole goes to this hole, which corresponds with this shaft. So what's happening is that the oil pressure is building up in the case. It comes up this hole that the head bolt is in. It runs, that oil runs into this hole right where the wire is. The wire could be the oil. The oil is coming out between these two surfaces and entering that hole right there. And that hole is between the head and the camshaft, so the oil has nowhere to go but down the camshaft, and it exits these little holes all the way down to here, and there's two in this big spot. The oil can't get out of the back here because there's a gear bolted onto it, okay, which holds it in place. And so that's what lubricates all of these surfaces in the head. So that's where the oil comes. So I could see, with this just being soft aluminum in here, where, and this is the last place where the oil is going to get. If you get a little low on oil, okay, this is going to be the last place to get lubricated, and I could see how it's going to grind in to that surface, and I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And that probably was the fatal end of this engine. So, I think I've mentioned, I'm not much of a machinist. In fact, I am not a machinist at all, but I do own this nice set of calipers. Let's zero them out here. And I've owned these forever. Easily the most sophisticated tool that I own. So when I measure this bearing surface, the one that's worn, it comes right in at 29.9 millimeters, pretty consistently. That means that this hole inside of the head was a 30 millimeter bore. So again, I tried to find a head, and I can buy whole junk engines. They want a lot of money for them. I really want an inexpensive solution. This is not a show bike or anything, but I was not able to find yet. I had to replace this, and even if I did, the odds are there's going to be quite a bit of wear in it. So I got to thinking, what can I do? Well, I got online. You gotta love eBay. And I found this bearing. The outside diameter of this bearing is 37. The inside is 30. Okay, it is 17 millimeters wide, which is the width of this surface. Slides right on there. And when we look down into the head here, it'll fit right in there. There's actually a place where this shoulder right here runs and kind of holds everything in line. There's not a lot holding this in line. That shoulder is 37 millimeters. It's this. So my thought is this. I'm going to take this to a machinist. I'm going to have him bore this out at 37 millimeters. We're going to put this bearing in here, and we're going to press it nice and tightly inside. Okay, I think that's going to be fine, because when I look at this bearing that's fitting on this camshaft, there's space right here and right here where the oil can escape when it comes out. So I do believe that's going to be okay. So that's my theory, and that's what I'm going to do. Now the next thing that happened is, remember, I measured this, and this is 29.9 very consistently within a thousandth of an inch, okay, all the way around it. I don't have any better tool to measure it than my calipers. I think these are called calipers. And then but this is precisely, when I measure it, it is precisely 37 millimeters. So I have no accurate way to measure the internal diameter. They say it's 30 millimeters. If this is precisely 37 on the outside, I'm going to assume it's precisely 30 on the inside. Now, when I hold it and I put it in my fingers, I can feel just the slightest little motion in there. And I'm going, well, I measured it. This is 30. I measured this at 29.9. That means there's 1/10 of a millimeter slop in there. And I go, man, is that going to work? Is that good or bad? And man, so I thought about it a little bit. This is a pretty heavy piece of metal right here. This is an air-cooled engine. This is going to heat up. So I took out this heat gun and I heated it up. And I really didn't get it all that hot, but it's hot to where, you wouldn't want to hold on to it, which I'd say would be about like an engine. I measured it when it was hot, and I'll be darned if it isn't exactly 30 millimeters. I slid the bearing over it when it's hot, and it is a precise fit when it's hot. So I'm guessing they milled that at 29.9 because they knew it was going to expand 1/10 of a millimeter and fit the bearing surface just fine. I'm sure this aluminum wasn't nearly as precise or hard as this bearing, so I believe that that bearing's going to work in there just fine. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I've discovered. Thought I would share it with you. I'm going to take this to a machinist. I'm sure that they're not going to get all excited and put this at the front of their work. It took me a week and a half to get this bearing. I ordered it on eBay. I'm sure that they're going to look at this and I'll get around to it, and I'll whine about it a few times probably, and they'll get around to doing this for me. So in the meantime, I'm going to do a few other things on the bike. I think I'm going to go ahead and pull the frame out and start cleaning it up. It is a rusty mess. I will make another video when I've got that out or I've got this bearing in. I look forward to talking to you again.